Hi, Owen Feely here again just for the nutrition series, and this is video number 2. Thanks very much for the feedback on video 1. It's very positive, it's very encouraging. Last week, if you did want to catch it up, last week we went through numbers, the overview and the bombs, 3 major behavioral habits, then dealing with the 12 days approach, and why we should never overlook the whole idea of losing 1 pound a week. Now, if you do want to watch that video, that's available in my Facebook group, The Mindset Routine of Excellence. Now, this week, we're just going to move it on a small bit, very gently, still not going to focus on too much around calories and that numbers game. Everything that we did last week was kind of a bit external. We were looking at end results in our life as a byproduct of what we do. So what I want to focus on today is a bit of the intrinsic, the internal, which is the most awkward part for people, which is dealing with your mind frame, self-talk and mindset. Now, I don't have too much to go through today with my own marker and my pen, but I do encourage you to have your marker and your pen, or marker or pen and piece of paper ready. And there's one question that we need to ask ourselves before we kind of delve into this and really commit to making long-term change. Because remember, this isn't just a quick fix, and this isn't a fix for everyone. This is just a broad range of information going from my own personal experience in losing 10 stone and dealing with clients professionally for the last 10 years. Now, what I'm going to ask you to ask yourself first is an extremely important question, and it's a question that got put to me years ago, and it's stuck in my head as the single most important question that anyone ever asked me, and that's, who are you? Because who are you is your identity. So when you take your marker, you take your pen and you take it to the page, and it's like, who are you? You need to think. Are you a father first? Are you a husband first? Are you a boyfriend? Are you a daughter? Are you a son? Are you a worker first? Where is your identity attached to? And this is very important, because if you're sitting in front of me now and I'm asking you, why do you want to lose weight? And you tell me it's because you want to feel better, you want to fit into this dress, you want to fit into this pair of jeans. That's fine, but all this is numbers. And then you might say, I just want to lose this many inches or this much weight. Again, we're just dealing with numbers. So if we attach our happiness to a number that's down the line, when we get to that number, this happiness is not guaranteed. Because this is the funny thing about the numbers. I'm 23 stone and I want to be 13 stone because it's going to bring me happiness. But how are we guaranteeing happiness? So when you, first of all, deal with your identity, the next question that you need to ask yourself is, when you do lose this weight, who are you going to be? What's different? And what does it look like? What are you doing differently now that's bringing you happiness because you're 10 stone lighter or you're 5 stone lighter? Because this is the important thing about your identity. We're always concerned with how we look on the outside. And this isn't the whole inside love and all thing. This is just about physical looking at second. So I'm concerned with how I look. So I'm concerned with looking better. And I'm concerned with being a certain weight, and I'm concerned with fitting into a certain dress size, or I'm concerned with fitting into a certain jean size. Now this is the funny thing. You spend your whole entire day looking at everyone else, not yourself. So if we're worried about the external stuff, why the hell are we worried about the external stuff? You're not looking at yourself. So this is where we do need to start with a small bit more from the inside out. And the inside out starts up here. And this is where we really need to focus in our attention to where we're going. Because when we ask these questions, who are you? Who will you be when you lose the weight? And what's different? It's very, very important. And there I want you to attach a bit of a long-term goal to it. So even if you are 23 stone right now, you're not even training and you're not even moving, you're not doing anything, but you then say to yourself that, I'm going to run a marathon. That's fine, say it and write it down and say that you're going to run a marathon. Because this is going to be an extremely long road, and what we're going to do this week and what we're going to do next week is we're just going to start walking. But this is where now we're going to start dealing with the behavioral habits, because the behavioral habits, without getting too much into it, because it's a whole different topic of conversation, is the subconscious and conscious thinking. So conscious thinking is trying to focus your mind to doing whatever you're exactly doing. And your subconscious mind is a pre-programmed recorder where we go around each and whole entire day doing all these behavioral habits without realizing it. Now, I don't want to lose your attention here, this with dealing with the mind here, but to simple terms of this, if you've ever learned how to drive a car, how did you learn how to drive the car? Your conscious mind had to think about putting in the keys to the ignition, putting down the foot to the clutch, and nervously putting it either into reverse or to first gear. And all of this was slow and stagnant. And that's conscious thinking. Now think of the last time you drove the car. How was it? You just got in and just went. You did all the same actions, but you didn't even know how you did them. And that's very, very important to remember, because that's how a lot of our actions go down. So even when I'm thinking about when I'm back at the start, and this is where we deal with the externals and we never deal with the internals, from my own personal experience, and this is all this is. I would have been eating a lot. So obviously that's a lot of hand-to-mouth action. But now, if you take that action, everything in our life, there's mirror reactions. So that's why we can attach different behavioral habits to these different actions. So now if you take that, I used eat a lot of food, smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol. So the food started coming down. But then I went from smoking 10 to 12 cigarettes a day up to maybe 30 cigarettes a day. So the food was going down, so the scales is coming down. Now the cigarettes were going up. Then the alcohol started going up. So then the cigarettes, I started to bring the cigarettes down. Then the alcohol would go up, but the cigarettes would go back up. Alcohol would come down, cigarettes would go up even more again. Then the food might start increasing again. So these are just 3 personal levels that I'm talking about. But again, remember, all of these actions are mirrored reactions everywhere else. So now let's break it down. What is it? It's a hand-to-mouth. What is kicking off my hand-to-mouth action? Because I can lose 10 stone, but unless I face up to the reality of what's causing that hand-to-mouth action, I'm never really achieving anything. Because again, if we attach our happiness and our self-worth to a number, you're never going to find it. You're never going to catch it. Let's flip it to the Irish mentality. I know it's a worldwide mentality, but let's flip it to an Irish mentality. If I say to you, you've just won $1 million in the Euro Millions, a lot of the time our mindset and the first reaction is, oh shit, all these people are going to ask me for money. So what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with that much money? As opposed to saying, I can do this, I can do this. We think to the negative before we think of the positive. And that's the approach that I want you to take. I want you to start moving towards solutions instead of moving away from problems. So instead of just this week or next week and you're saying, oh, I'm starting a diet, I'm going to get healthier. You're not. You're going to start walking more and you're going to start eating healthier, and that's what you're going to say. Because if I go back to the conscious thinking and the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, people try to lose weight by saying, I'm not going to eat chocolate today, I'm not going to eat chocolate today, I'm not going to eat chocolate today. Your whole focus and conscious thinking is chocolate. What are you going to have? You're going to have chocolate. So this is the first thing I want you to do after you do your exercise answering your questions, is we're going to stop moving away from problems and we're going to start moving towards solutions, and we're going to take the positive outlook to it. Now the second thing that we need to talk about is the self-sabotage. And again, there's a whole other talk to that, but the quick and easy, relatable topic of self-sabotage to this is tonight on Thursday evening, you go on to ASOS and you drop 150 euros on absolute useless stuff that you didn't need. Well, it's nice, but you didn't need it. So all of a sudden you're upset that you've been on ASOS and you spent 150 quid. You didn't need the stuff, but it's coming. Now, do you take the approach of, well, if I spent 150 quid on ASOS, now I'm just going to spend another 300 euros on something else. And do you know what? Because it's Thursday night, I'm just going to do the same on Friday night, but I'm going to spend more on Saturday, and I'm going to spend every last bit of money I have on Sunday, and next Monday I'm going to start again. You don't. You never would. It's the same approach that you're going to do with this when we think of the long game. Who are you going to be? Are you going to be a marathon runner and you're going to start with walking here today? Great. That's what we're going to do here as well with the food. If you do have a self-sabotage moment where you eat some food that you felt that you weren't meant to eat, park it. Acceptance is the first point of contact to any bit of improvement and any form of progression. You've done it, you've spent 150 quid on ASOS, correlating it back to a mirror of you ate food that you felt you shouldn't have ate, like you had your dinner and then you got a takeaway, whatever it is. But we just accept it and we're going to move on from it. Now again, before we start dealing with the numbers, still dealing with the behavioural habits, we need to identify now the bombs that happen during the day. So the easiest way to identify this is, I know, correlating to my hand-to-mouth action, that I can say that I open a fridge, I just take something out just for the sake of having something from the fridge. If I go to the press where you have the crisps and the chocolate and the biscuits, I'm just going to have something for the sake of it. Now, we can tend to pick throughout the day without realising it. And it's calories that's not counted in our head because this is moving so bloody fast and we don't realise that we've had it, or some bit of worry that's after coming. And then all of a sudden, we just start going picking. And again, prime times, you got a fridge, you got a time when you're upset, you got cooking the dinner, and you got the TV in the evening. So you need to identify these, and you need to take control of you before you allow yourself to get to that position. Now, before we ever start worrying about the whole thing of meditation, really focusing on our mind and slowing it down and stuff like that, let's just focus day at a time. Just like what we do with anything. We just focus on the here and now, make that improvement, and tomorrow we improve 1% again. So the best way we can do that is, remember what I was saying about the 12-day diet. Last week, you look at what you ate, then this week you just eat a little less. You just make it a bit healthier. Smaller portions here, whatever it is to make that improvement for you in order to lose weight. Now what you're going to do is you need to identify all of these habits that you have and when it sets you off. And just what you're going to do is set down what you're going to eat for your breakfast, what you're going to eat for your lunch, what you're going to eat for your dinner, and then write down something that you're going to eat for your snacks. And here on Thursday, structure and plan out Friday. Now, I don't care if the breakfast is a breakfast roll. I just want to know when you're having it, how much of it you're having it, where you're having it. Same with your lunch. I don't care if it's fish and chips from the chipper, but give me the time, give me the place where you're getting it from, when it's going to be finished. What are you having for your dinner? It can be Chinese. It's absolutely fine. 3 heavy calorie loaded meals, but just decide when you are eating. Now, there's no secret to weight loss in regards to 6 smaller meals, you lose more weight, or you have to eat a breakfast to lose weight. This is to bookend our day to give us structure, because we're more interested in structure and routine to influence your environment to get our long-term goal. So give me the time that you're having your breakfast, your lunch and your dinner, and then put in your snacks. Don't care if the snacks are bar, chocolate and crisp, but tell me the time that you're having it. And this is where tactics gets painted as magic. So if you say to me, round numbers, we're just going to go 9 o'clock for breakfast, 1 o'clock lunch, 6 o'clock for dinner. Well, now I'm saying to you, you're not going to bed till 12 o'clock, we've got a 6-hour gap. Save your snacks for here. So even save 2 snacks for after your dinner, because that's when you're in front of the TV. But tell me what you're having today before you go into tomorrow, so we can control this. Because what happens when phone goes off and we say, oh no, panic's after happening, we have something, we just do a hand-to-mouth action, we start picking. And these are all just conditioned reflexes. If I went to punch you in the face, the first thing you do is you put up your hands. You don't know why you did it, you just did it. You don't know how you did it, it just happens. Same thing when we're walking around the tins of roses at Christmas. We walk past them, we just take it. By the whole entire course of a day, if you imagine over Christmas, we could have had 15 sweets from the tin of roses. But if you called over to me and said, would you have a cup of tea and 15 sweets? You'd say, Jesus, no, I won't be having that much at all. This is what happens when we're out and when we're not fully focused on what we're doing. All of these habits that are in our subconscious are just controlling how we act. So this is how we do when we form these habits, is we do it repetitively over in our conscious mind, and then it just gets stored in our subconscious mind. So why do you walk every day at 5 o'clock? I don't know, that's just the way it is. Because it's the conditioned reflex of what's happening, because you said to yourself, I'm walking every day at 5 o'clock, and down the line in time, you've got a habit. All habits are hard to break, just the good ones seem to be a bit hard, the good ones seem a bit harder to implement. But everything takes practice, and practice takes time. And just because you've done it today doesn't mean you don't have to do it tomorrow. Just because you did it this week doesn't mean you don't have to do it next week. So this is very, very important. So you just write down, I'm having my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner. And what you have to do here is, this is the whole thing with overeating. Eat a big substantial meal so you don't pick in between the meal. So you get from your breakfast to your lunch, you get from your lunch to your dinner, and you get from your dinner to your snacks. Now, some people might like the bar chocolate and the cup of tea at 3 o'clock. That's fine, but put it in there. Tell me when you're having it, what time and what you're having it. And then you know tomorrow you are not eating outside of those zones. And this is where like intermittent fasting and all these things, or don't eat after 6 p.m. works. It's just a way of keeping us under control. So even if I say to you that you're going to have your dinner at 6 o'clock, and then you say you want to have your snack at 9 o'clock, and then I just say, as a coach, yeah, barring order, you're not allowed to eat after 9 o'clock. That's not magic, but I'm taking away options for you. We're putting in structure, and we're putting in the routine to keep you a small bit more contained. And that's why just putting your structure and your routine the day before, so your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner, When you have your snacks, whether it be morning, middle of the day or evening, and you cut it off then at that. Now, if you do that for a couple of days, within the 12 days, next week, if you do a mirror image, and if you have a breakfast roll tomorrow, get a breakfast roll next week with one less sausage or one piece of bacon, you're on a calorie deficit now. You're beginning to cut down your calories. But what we have got rid of is picking. And again, this is just one behavioural habit that's correlated to my own personal experience that I see a lot in my profession. It's not the answer to everyone. But if we've got rid of the picking, we know exactly when you're eating, how much you're eating it, and you're getting conditioned to stop picking. So when you do open the fridge, you only do so because you're going preparing your food. Now, what can be very, very good kind of meditation, if you want to call it, but a good way of forming a habit is with people working from home now, it's very difficult to switch off because you get up, you go to work in the home, you finish and you're in the home. So is there a start day? Is there an end day? 2 tips for this. Get comfortable, but maybe wear work clothes within the home. When you're finished your day, get out of your work clothes so you can start a new day. So you're back in the home now again. And if you just rather being comfortable and staying in your dressing gown all day and working from home, that's absolutely fine. But maybe when you're preparing your dinner, chop an onion or chop a pepper, chop anything to slow down your mind, but take it into your head that you're going to try to chop that piece of vegetable as best you can and as slowly as you can. You're going to just focus your mind to stop all of this noise that's going on in your head about that person said that person said that, I'm due that tomorrow, I meant to do this evening, that you just zone in and you focus what you're doing. And that's just going to grab your focus, and then it's going to make you just think that I'm having my dinner, I'm back here, the back of my mind isn't racing anymore, and I'm not picking as I go, because that's another danger zone around the dinner time before we actually get fed. Now, another option to do that is if you're comfortable and you don't go picking, or someone has cooked the dinner for you, which is even better again if you're caught for time. But then maybe get rid of the dishwasher one or two nights of the week and do the dishes yourself. Because again, all you're doing is you're narrowing in your focus mind and you're focusing on exactly what you're doing there and then, and it gets rid of all the chatter that's going on in your head. So they're 2 very, very good tips when we are preparing our food, just to slow down our mind. And the last one, as we are going into the weekend, and the weekend seems to start earlier for many people during lockdown, is if we got Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. You need to decide what's best for you in regards to alcohol. Is it healthier not to be drinking? Of course it is. But now let me say this to you. If you've been drinking every single weekend this year, is it healthier for you as a parent, as you as a worker, you as a person, that if you have a few beers or a few glasses of wine or a few gins, whatever your juice is at the weekend, if you have a few of them, is that better for your long-term goal? Because if you go into Friday and you have a half bottle of wine, and on Saturday you have a full bottle of wine, or you have 6 beers on a Friday night, you have 8 beers on a Saturday night, 6 beers on a Friday night, is that better for you to be de-stressing to allow you to attack the rest of the weeks and the rest of the coming days? Because we have to take some bit of mini overview between the weeks, and that's the important thing about the 12 days. So you don't have to quit anything, you don't have to cut anything out, but remember the give and take from video 1. And that's more important, and that's very important to understand. Now, the only issue that you're ever going to have with the alcohol is you can make the changes. You could go from Guinness to Coors Light, you could go from Corona to Corona Light, you could switch over from wine to gin and 7-Up Free or Similac Tonic or anything to do with it. The biggest danger will be, are you picking while you drink? So that's what you have to be aware of, and keep that in your conscious mind while you are de-stressing, that you're not just going to mindlessly pick. And think about last weekend and the weekend before. Did you have too many drinks on either night, and on a Saturday or the Sunday, it was a write-off? You kept picking because this was putting you down and your self-talk was negative and you were worthless and you were useless. That's the problem you're going to have. And that's where limits come in. And that's probably the best way to start. So that's the end of video 2, just talking a bit more about your individual habits and really identifying and tools that can counteract them. Again, thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you next week.